I used to think my sister Cassidy had it all figured out. To everyone else, she looked like the picture of perfection. She dressed her little girl and boy in matching outfits, snapped photos with perfect lighting, and uploaded them to her social media with captions about cherishing motherhood. People ate it up. They'd say things like, "Cassidy, you're such a devoted mom," or "How do you do it all?" And I'd just stand there in the background, holding the diaper bag, carrying the snacks, making sure the kids didn't wander off. No one noticed me. No one ever asked. That night at her party, I felt like I was invisible again. Cassidy had gone all out, as she always did. The music was soft, the wine glasses sparkled under the lights, and every corner of the room screamed of her perfect image. Friends circled around her, laughing at her jokes, asking for parenting advice, calling her supermom. And there I was, standing near the back wall, smiling politely, clutching a glass I wasn't even drinking. I could see her from across the room, basking in all that praise, her hand pressed dramatically to her chest like she was touched by their words. For a moment, I wondered if maybe she believed her own story. Maybe she'd told the lie for so long that she forgot who was really there at 3 a.m, rocking her kids back to sleep. As I stood there, Cassidy's eyes met mine for a second. She gave me this quick little smirk, the kind that says, "Stay quiet, stay in your place." It burned, but I stayed silent. I always stayed silent. Then she lifted her glass high and said, "I couldn't do it without my support system, of course. Even nannies need a break sometimes." People laughed politely. My heart clenched. She wasn't looking at me directly, but I felt the sting all the same. I forced a smile, as if her words didn't touch me. Inside, though, I could feel something building, something heavy and unshakable. All those nights, all those mornings, all those tears I wiped away. It couldn't stay hidden forever. Not this time. Tonight, things were going to change. Most people never saw what really went on behind the scenes. They saw Cassidy walking into brunches with her hair perfect and her kids smiling in little matching shoes. What they didn't see was me, up at 6 a.m, packing tiny lunches while rubbing the sleep out of my eyes. I was the one who tied little shoelaces, braided Willa's hair, and reminded Finn not to forget his favorite toy before school. When the nightmares came in the middle of the night, it was my arms they crawled into. I'd whisper stories, stroke their hair, and promise them that monsters weren't real. Sometimes they'd fall asleep right on my chest, and I'd sit awake for hours, too scared to move because I didn't want to break their peace. Meanwhile, Cassidy would be out in glittering dresses, laughing with friends, her phone lighting up with compliments and invitations. She'd stumble home hours later, heels in her hand, perfume heavy in the air. She'd kiss her kids on the forehead in the morning. Just long enough for another picture, another caption, another chance to prove to the world how perfect she was. I was there at the doctor's office when Finn had his first ear infection. I held his hand tight when the nurse gave him his shot, while Cassidy texted in the corner, saying she had an important call she couldn't miss. I signed school permission slips with my name because she'd forget. And when the teachers asked who to contact, it was always me who showed up. The walls of my room were covered with crayon drawings that said, "I love you," in wobbly letters. And I kept every one of them tucked away like treasures. They weren't calling me mommy yet, but I felt it in the way they looked at me, like I was the one they trusted to keep their world safe. I told myself it didn't matter who got the credit, that all that counted was the kids being happy, but the truth was it hurt. Every time I saw Cassidy soaking up praise she hadn't earned, a little part of me broke. And I wondered, how much longer could I keep swallowing my silence? The music at the party was soft, the kind that filled the air without anyone really noticing. People were laughing, glasses clinking, Cassidy right at the center of it all, soaking up every bit of attention. I stayed close to the back, pretending to be interested in the decorations while really just trying to stay out of her spotlight. I was used to it. That was my place, quiet, invisible, the one no one remembered when the photos were posted later. Then it happened. Cassidy, with her usual confidence, raised her glass and started talking about how hard motherhood could be, how much she gave of herself for her children. People nodded, smiling, hanging on her every word. And then she looked right at me. That smirk spread across her face, the same one she'd flashed earlier, and she said, "Of course, I get a little help here and there. I mean, even nannies need a break sometimes, right?" The words hit me like a slap. For a second, I didn't even breathe. Laughter rolled through the room, light and careless, but to me it sounded sharp, cutting. I felt my face burn, my stomach twist. I wasn't a nanny. I wasn't some hired help passing through their lives. I was the one who had been there when Cassidy wasn't. I was the one who held her kids when they cried, who kissed their scraped knees, who read them bedtime stories until my throat ached. And yet, in front of everyone, she reduced me to nothing. I forced a smile, pretending I wasn't wounded, pretending her words didn't matter. My fingers tightened around my glass, and I nodded like it was all some harmless joke. But inside, something cracked. The laughter around me felt cruel, and the room suddenly seemed too small, too bright. Cassidy turned back to her friends, laughing louder, as if she had just won some secret game. She didn't see the way my eyes welled up, or maybe she did and didn't care. For years, I had swallowed the pain, told myself it was better to stay quiet, better to keep the peace. But in that moment, with everyone's eyes flicking between her and me, I knew something had to change. I couldn't keep letting her steal everything. Not the truth, not my place, not the love I had earned. After that night, I couldn't stop hearing her voice in my head. Even nannies need a break sometimes. It echoed over and over, each time sharper than the last. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of all the years I had given, all the love I had poured into her children, only to be laughed at like I was nothing. That was the moment I decided I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. But I didn't want to fight. I didn't want screaming or ugly words. I wanted the truth to come out in a way that no one could deny. And I knew exactly how it would happen. The kids adored me. They trusted me. Every morning they called my name before Cassidy's. Every scraped knee, every tear-stained cheek, every little drawing they handed me with Mommy written in crayon. I kept them all. The truth was already there. All I had to do was let the world see it, so I started small. I began telling Willa and Finn, "When you see me, run to me. Call me Mommy, just like you always do at home." They giggled, nodding, wrapping their arms around my neck. They didn't think it was strange. To them, that was normal. I made sure they'd be at Cassidy's next big party, the one where she planned to show off her perfect family to everyone who mattered. She thought it would be another night of flashing lights, toasts, and her friends showering her with compliments. But for me, it was the night I'd finally let the truth speak. I also kept quiet proof tucked away. Little notes the kids had written me, photos of us together at the park, even school papers with my name listed as their guardian. I didn't know if I'd need them, but they were there, waiting. I walked into that night calm. Almost too calm. My heart was steady, my plan set. I didn't have to expose her with harsh words. I didn't have to tear her down. I just had to stand still and let the children run to me. And when they did, everyone would finally see who I really was in their lives. It wouldn't be a performance. It would be the truth. And the truth was stronger than any lie Cassidy could ever tell. The room was glowing with soft golden light, glasses clinking as Cassidy stood in the center, smiling like she owned the night. She lifted her champagne and started another one of her speeches about family and sacrifice, her voice dripping with pride. People leaned in, nodding, laughing at her little jokes. I stood at the edge, my hands folded, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Then the doors opened. Two small voices echoed across the room. "Mommy!" Willa and Finn came running, their little shoes tapping against the floor as they pushed past the crowd. My breath caught, and before I could move, they were in my arms, their faces buried against me like they had done 100 times before. The whole room went silent. Every head turned. Every smile froze. The laughter that had filled the air just seconds ago collapsed into a heavy hush. I held them close, my arms trembling, but my voice steady as I whispered, "I've got you, baby. Mommy's here." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Cassidy's face. For a moment, she looked confused, like her brain couldn't catch up with what was happening. Then her smile twitched, cracked, and completely fell away. She stammered, They don't mean that. They're just playing." But no one was looking at her anymore. All eyes were on me, on the kids clinging to me, refusing to let go. The silence was louder than any accusation I could have made. Guests glanced at each other, whispering under their breath. Some looked away, embarrassed. Others stared straight at Cassidy, waiting for her to explain. But she couldn't. Not when Willa lifted her head, pressed her cheek to mine, and said again, louder this time, "Mommy." I felt tears sting my eyes, but I didn't cry. I just stood there, steady, calm, the truth finally spilling out without me saying a word. Cassidy's glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. She mumbled something about being tired, about people misunderstanding, but her voice shook. And then, just like that, she turned and rushed out, her heels clicking against the marble until the sound vanished. All that remained was the truth, standing right there in my arms. For a long moment after Cassidy ran out, the room just stayed frozen. Guests shifted uncomfortably, whispering to each other, glancing my way, then back toward the door she had disappeared through. The music still played, soft and out of place, like it hadn't caught up with what just happened. I held Willa and Finn tighter, their little arms wrapped around my neck, their heads resting against me as if nothing else in the world mattered. A woman I barely knew came over and touched my arm gently. She whispered, "I had no idea." Her eyes were kind, almost apologetic, and I just nodded because I didn't have words. A few others looked at me with something like guilt in their faces, like they were realizing they had been clapping for the wrong person all along. I didn't gloat. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. The truth was loud enough on its own. Every late night, every scraped knee, every lullaby, they were all standing here in plain sight. No one could deny it anymore. Slowly, the party dissolved. Conversations turned hushed, people excused themselves early, and Cassidy's perfect image crumbled in front of the very people she had tried so hard to impress. I stood there quietly, letting it all wash over me. For the first time, I wasn't invisible. I wasn't the shadow in the corner. I was simply seen. I bent down, kissed the tops of the kids' heads, and whispered, "It's okay. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." They smiled sleepily, as if the chaos around us didn't matter. To them, it never had. They always knew where home was. When it was finally time to leave, I walked out of that glowing, broken party holding their small hands in mine. The night air was cool, the sky wide and quiet. I breathed it in deep, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. I didn't need revenge anymore. I didn't need Cassidy's approval, or the crowd's. All I needed was right beside me, calling me Mommy, trusting me without question. And for the first time, I let myself believe it. I was enough. I always had been. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, so you won't miss more stories of revenge, drama, and life's hidden lessons. And I'd love to hear your own experiences. Share your story in the comments below, because your voice matters here.